This is Christopher John Bjerknes. It is January 19th, 2025. As always happens with my theories and insights, I have found absolute proof that everything I've been saying is true. I've got primary sources that demonstrate unequivocally that everything I've been saying about the North Pole, the Arctic, the Freemasons, subterranean Garden of Eden, underworld Garden of Eden, Noah's Ark, the Hyperboreans, the worship of the sun god, all of it, everything I've been saying, I have absolute proof that it is all true. I have the modern primary sources and the ancient Greek primary sources. I've shown you all the sources in the Old Testament. I've shown you the sources in Kabbalah, especially Lurianic Kabbalah, for the belief that the North is the Garden of Eden, but is also the seat of tohu, of chaos, of evil, that it is breached, it is a portal, and it is a gateway into the Garden of Eden. In just a moment, I'm going to show you a couple books that prove all this. It's a good feeling, once again. Everything I've been saying, that all my detractors said I'm lying and I'm crazy and it's all nonsense, I've got the absolute proof once again. So let's start digging in to that proof. So this is the book that forms the modern basis for the idea that the North Pole and the Arctic were originally the Garden of Eden, that they were flourishing, that all the mastodons and mammoths and all the great animals that are found up there were from the Garden of Eden. And this book is called Paradise Found: The Cradle of the Human Race at the North Pole. Chapter 1 lays out the hypothesis. This is from 1885 by William Warren, who was a member of a secret society. And we'll get into all the details about that in just a moment. Chapter 1, the hypothesis. The golden guess is morning star to the full round of truth. From the foregoing chapters, it would seem as if nearly every imaginable site for the Gan Eden, Garden of Eden, of Genesis had been proposed, examined, and found unavailable. One, however, remains, a region of rarest interest in astronomical, physical, and historical geography, the natural center of the only historic hemisphere. Considering the fascination of the subject and the inexhaustible ingenuity that has been expended upon it, it seems remarkable that it should be left to the closing years of the 19th century to bring forward and seriously to test the proposition that the cradle of the human race, the Eden of primitive tradition, was situated at the North Pole in a country submerged at the time of the deluge. This has obviously been a belief among secret societies and Kabbalists, and prior to the Kabbalist Judaists, for thousands of years. They always knew that it would be up to the north. The Judaists took the idea from the Greeks, who talked about a people called the Hyperboreans. This relates also to the Thule Gesellschaft in Germany, and this belief that there was this northern race of white people who were giant warriors, a great race of people. And the Greeks said that these Hyperboreans, the people of the north wind, the people of the north, worshipped the sun god Apollo. The sun god Apollo is analog to the god Ra of ancient Egypt, the god of the sun. And these people believe that the Garden of Eden was at the North Pole. But more than that, they have taken this belief based also upon Plato's writings, as I'll show. And this deals with the Hyperboreans, as Plato described Apollo and the worship of Apollo as being at the center of the world. That center of the world and the seat of the world is then taken to be inside at the very core of the earth, at what they then called the shadowy God, as this black sun in the center of the earth. They believe the earth is hollow, and that the real Garden of Eden is not at the North Pole itself, but the North Pole itself is a portal that opens up into this inner world that will be the Garden of Eden. And one of my insights from studying all this is think about this in terms of the flood. When the flood flooded the surface of the world, it had no effect on the Garden of Eden. And there was no destruction of the Nephilim. And there was no destruction of the plants or the animals that exist supposedly in this mythological Garden of Eden in the center of the earth. And that's a very important aspect to all this, because they want to go and hide in the subterranean regions they have constructed and will continue to construct, and utilize that as their Noah's Ark as they turn the surface area of the earth into a living hell to punish all the Goyim as their scapegoats for all their sins. And the more severe they can make that punishment of the Goyim, the more their sins get cleansed, because the gods have to be paid for all the sins that they have committed through the suffering of punishment. And as I've proven, the Kabbalists, including Isaac Luria, said that this region of the north is the region of din, punishment, in the middle of the left pillar of severity on the tree of life on the planet Mars, Gavura, which Elon Musk is so obsessed with. And before him, Werner von Braun. So all of this ties together. This is the absolute proof that this belief exists, that the North Pole is considered the Garden of Eden. But then this belief was further clarified in another book that I'm about to show you. Well, let's deal in terms of the Platonic first. This is one of the places where all of this nonsense comes from. And it is in Plato's Republic, Book 4, Section 5. I think it's, well, we'll get to the precise citations in a moment. What part of legislation then, he said, is still left for us? And I replied, for us nothing, but for the Apollo of Delphi. Apollo is the god of the sun, the chief, the fairest, and the first of enactments. What are they, he said? The founding of temples and sacrifices and other forms of worship of gods, demons. Demons to the gods were not demons. It was Eusebius the Christian who corrupted the idea of the gods of the Greeks and made it an evil idea. But the demons are simply the lower gods, and the vast majority of demons were good gods and benevolent gods and loved human beings. There were only a few evil demons. And heroes. And likewise, the burial of the dead and the services we must render to the dwellers in the world beyond to keep them gracious. For of such matters we neither know anything, nor in the founding of our city, if we are wise, we shall entrust them to any other or make any use of any other interpreter than the God of our fathers. This is a warning to all the Europeans that Christianity is a subversion, and you should instead believe in the gods of your fathers that protected you if you want to be religious. For this God surely is in such matters, this God being Apollo, the god of the sun. For this God surely is in such matters for all mankind the interpreter of the religion of their fathers, who from his seat in the middle and at the very navel of the earth delivers his interpretation. The Kabbalists and the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians take this Platonic conception of the Hyperboreans of the north, the giants of the north, and of Apollo, the god of the sun, being the god of worship by these Hyperboreans and being seated on his throne at the North Pole. That's very important to understand for all this. Here's an alternative interpretation of that same passage. Nothing to us, I replied, but to Apollo, the god of Delphi, there remains the ordering of the greatest and noblest and chiefest of all. What is that? He said. The institution of temples and sacrifices, and in general, the service of gods, demigods, and heroes. See how that demons gets translated to demigods? Demigods is kind of incorrect. It's more the lesser gods of the greater gods, and heroes. Also, the ordering of the repositories of the dead and the rites which have to be observed in order to propitiate the inhabitants of the world below, the inhabitants of the world below. For these are matters of which we are ignorant, and as founders of a city, we should be unwise in trusting them to any interpreter but our ancestral deity. Take heed of that warning, Western man, and stop worshiping the gods of the Judaists. He is the God who sits in the center on the navel of the earth, and he is the interpreter of religion to all mankind. That is Apollo, that is Ra, the god of the sun, the god of goodness and sweetness and light and the surface of the earth, and making the plants grow and giving order to minerals as plants elevate the minerals into souls and life forms that are consumed by animals who give even greater order, goodness, and beauty to restore it to the light of the sun and the goodness of order and oneness. And then human beings consume those luscious animals and plants and elevate those sparks of divine souls up to the sun in the epistrophe across the 7 planets, where the soul returns to its source and reunites with God in an ecstatic mystica unio with the Godhead itself. This is all Platonistic emanation theory, and they believe that Apollo is situated at the North Pole and sits upon his throne. But they have taken this further and said that it's actually in the middle of the earth, at the navel, that the center is in the middle of the earth and becomes this shadowy god of the black sun in the middle of the earth, and the Kabbalists corrupt it all and make it all satanic so that it transfers from Ra and Horus and the beautiful light of the sun and the surface of the earth into the subworld of the 7 layers of hell that are illuminated by Seth, the shadowy darkness god, the god of the light of darkness, the light of the moon, the stolen light that the parasitic moon robs from the sun. And that's what they worship. So they want to make the Garden of Eden not at the North Pole itself, but the North Pole itself becomes a portal with an open gate to the Garden of Eden, which is in the underworld of hell, and which has its own black sun as the god Seth Typhon. So this is that book, Paradise Found, that I was talking about. It's a real book. You can look it up on the web. You can download the PDF, just as I have done. I just want to give you a feeling for this old book and the maps and everything. This is a wonderful resource. Paradise Found, The Cradle of the Human Race at the North Pole, a study of the prehistoric world, William F. Warren, 1885. And this was published by Houghton Mifflin and Company in Boston, which is a huge publisher. And in a lot of ways, it really is a scholarly book. That this true solution has not been, not that I believe any of this mythology, that this true solution has not been furnished before is not strange. The suggestion that the primitive Eden was at the Arctic pole seems at first sight the most incredible of all wild and willful paradoxes. The author was William Fairfield Warren. He was a member of the Mystical Seven. The Mystical Seven was a society founded in 1837 at Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut. Members were called mystics, etc., etc. The Mystical Seven. You can see the Ouroboros, the Hebrew letters. This is all deeply Kabbalistic, Rosicrucian, Freemasonic. And I want to especially thank Zero Swag, Texas _ Broski. He recommended that I read the book, The Smoky God, after I presented my theories. Inner Earth, entrances at North and South Pole, don't need Greenland to access them. Greenland is rich in rare earth minerals, but all this predates all this quest for these rare earth elements, as I replied in my comment. And the important thing is, in addition to this entrance at the North Pole, it talks about this inner world and the Garden of Eden being contained in this inner world. And it talks about these people who are like the Nephilim, as I'm going to explain. And I have found all kinds of proof within this book that these are Masonic beliefs, that these are Kabbalistic and Rosicrucian beliefs. And nobody but me in the whole world would pick up on this. So I want to point this out and get it on the record. He writes, Olaf Jensen. This is supposedly the story that Olaf Jensen tells of his experiences discovering this inner earth, this underworld of hell that's illuminated by the smoky god who is Seth Typhon. Olaf Janssen avers that in the beginning, the world was created by the great architect of the universe. That is primarily a term used by Freemasons. And they take the first letter of each word to be the name of their God, G-A-O-T-U. If you Google that, G-A-O-T-U, you'll find all kinds of stuff about how the Freemasons refer to that as their God, and how that big G in the middle of their compass and square symbol represents that, the great architect of the universe. I know what it actually represents, but I'll discuss that at another time. But this is proof that the author of this book was in with the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians. It's a term that's also been used by Christians and theologians, etc. But this is a real tell that this guy is a Freemason, if not even higher than the Freemasons, and a Rosicrucian. Olaf Jensen avers that in the beginning, the world was created by the great architect of the universe so that man might dwell upon its inside surface, which has ever since been the habitation of the chosen. Who are the chosen people? The Israelites. Where do they want to live? On the inner side of the surface of the earth. They want to be subterranean. They view their world, their Garden of Eden, their Noah's Ark as being underground. That's why you find them hiding away in tunnels all through history. That's why they have inhabited caves from the Essenes on through to Libya and parts all over the world. That's why the ancient Christians built their churches in caves and catacombs and underground in Ethiopia and all over and in Turkey and all over the place. That's why these Judaists and Abrahamists are like ants living under the ground, like the ant people that the Navajos and the Apaches and the other American Indians and the Hopis talk about, the ant people living under the ground. The habitation of the chosen. They who were driven out of the Garden of Eden brought their traditional history with them. This is obviously describing the Jews who want to live underground in their subterranean hell of what they consider to be the Garden of Eden, as they invert everything normal and natural, block out the sun with geoengineering and spraying sulfur and brimstone up into the atmosphere and setting fires to destroy all the foliage on the earth and to fill us with wars and hell of all kinds and to turn our lives into hell and to create machines that are possessed by demonic souls and have artificial intelligence derived from Satan, engineered by Satanists to torture and punish us, to tempt us into sin, which is Satan's role, to witness that sin, which is Satan's role, to accuse us of sin, which is Satan's role, to put us on trial as Satan does, and then to punish us as Satan does, but not for our own sins, but for the sins of the Israelites, primarily because we are their scapegoats, which is why they're engineering hell to punish us as their scapegoats as they go into their Garden of Eden and convert the subterranean world into a well-illuminated world glowing with the light of darkness, the shining darkness that they always talk about. And that relates to the eighth candle of the menorah and relates to Shekinah, to Shekinah. As I've been saying over and over again, it's the glowing light of the moon, the light of the parasite that steals the light of Ra, steals the light of Apollo, steals the light of the sun. All of this is an inversion of everything, where the second born of Jacob steals the birthright of Esau, the firstborn, the child of the sun, the children of the moon, the secondborn, steal that birthright. And then they invert everything so that the surface of the earth becomes hell and the underworld of the earth becomes their heaven. This is another big tell that this is all Kabbalistic. I bought this humble home and determined here in the privacy of my own abode, sheltered by my own vine, that is the grapevine of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, as I've been saying, and I'm the only person in the world who understands all this and can explain it. And fig tree, it is considered the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, called the tree of death in the Zohar, is considered to be a grapevine, a fig tree, a date palm, a pomegranate. All of these things are considered the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve covered themselves with fig leaves. Jesus Christ is on the cross and he has the poison of wine, as the Old Testament says. He has his blood, because the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is a grapevine, and wine is poisoned until the fruit of the vine becomes ripened in the world to come. Sheltered by my own vine and fig tree, a clear reference to the tree of knowledge of good and evil and Kabbalism, and with my books about me to make maps and drawings of the new lands we had discovered. Books, the Torah, the Midrash, the Kabbalah, maps, the map of creation that is the heavenly Torah that shows how the great architect of the universe has ordered the entire world, and righteous prophet tzaddiks get to see this map of creation and drawings of the new lands we had discovered, and also to write the story in detail from the time my father and I left Stockholm until the tragic event that parted us in the Antarctic Ocean. So now we're going to get into the descriptions in this book of the Nephilim. Suddenly we were frightened out of our wits by hearing in the far distance the singing of people. These are these giants, these 12-foot tall giants that he encounters on a large ship, the immense craft, 6 men of gigantic stature. See the Nephilim, the Hyperborean Nephilim, and these guys are tiny in comparison. Now, the height of these Nephilim is the exact height that the Bible describes for the Nephilim. This strange race of giants offered us an equal amount of wonderment. There was not a single man aboard who would not have measured fully 12 feet in height. 12 feet in height was the height of King Og of Bashan. His bed was decorated with iron and was more than 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. A cubit is a foot and a half, 18 inches. So 9 of them would be 13 and a half feet. That would be the proper size for bed for a giant that is 12 feet tall. And so we understand from this that King Og was right around 12 feet tall, which is what he was always thought to be, and that is what the author of The Smoky God said these Nephilim in the north are. That is about 14 feet. It's actually 13 and a half feet. Here's a picture of the high priest of the Nephilim and how these guys are dwarfed by it, like in the Bible. The 3 spies that were sent out and said that they felt like grasshoppers before the Nephilim of the Canaanites when they were scoping things out for Joshua. And now let's get into the description of the smoky god itself, which is known to the Satanists as the Black Sun. You'll see the Nazis with their old, I don't know whether to call it Runic or Old Norse mythologies of the Black Sun symbol and all this, and they've been duped into obliging all of this Kabbalistic lore. It's not really the lore of their ancestors, so that they will help the Kabbalists to construct this new world of hell under the earth that they will conceive of as their heaven as they turn the surface of the earth into hell and invert everything. And as I've been explaining, the tree of life and the tree of death will exchange places and everything will be flipped over. And the underworld will become heaven, and the surface of the earth is being transformed, deliberately transformed into hell. The great luminous cloud or ball of dull red fire, fiery red in the morning and evenings, and during the day, giving off a beautiful white light like the light of the moon, silver light. The smoky god is seemingly suspended in the center of the great vacuum within the earth and held to its place by the immutable law of gravitation or a repellent atmospheric force, as the case may be. In reality, the people within believe that the smoky god is the throne of their Jehovah and is stationary. The effect of night and day is, therefore, produced by the Earth's daily rotation. So they conceive of that as the center of the universe, of the axis mundi, upon which the sun, Ra, supposedly rotates around and around, as do the stars and the moon, but their God is fixed. And that's why you see all these flat earth Talmudists posing as if they are fighting against the Judaic agenda, but are actually subversives trying to trick you into believing all of this mythology that the earth is flat, that there are two worlds, one above it and one below it, and that the center of this world is the North Pole, and it is open and a portal that leads down into the Garden of Eden of hell below. So they are duping people in the name of fighting the Kabbalists into adopting all the Talmudic and Kabbalistic beliefs. And I've been fighting these clowns on the internet now for years, exposing exactly what they're up to. Here is more smoking gun proof that I'm absolutely correct. So, as you can tell, I'm excited about all this. It's always good to be vindicated 100%, but much more importantly than that, to find the absolute proof that I can share with you to help persuade you that these things that, of course, must sound crazy to you and wild and off the wall and whatever, they're true and they are proven correct. And once again, my intuition and my insights and my theories have been proven to be 100% accurate. And I've also gotten a tip on another good book that I'll be discussing shortly. And I, again, want to thank the person who turned me on to that one book, which led me to the even earlier book, which is much more important as far as I'm concerned. But this all relates to these secret societies. And as I've proven to you, the subtext of what is being written into this is very much like the subtext of Kabbalah and the Talmud and the Old Testament. You have the written version of it, but then there's the oral tradition behind it. And I'm the only one able to see that oral tradition coded in to these written words of this science fiction novel. And I wanted to share that with you and get this on the record and expose that. And I'm going to be incorporating it into my writings, which I am polishing up to be published, if only for those people who want to join in the new society that I'm proposing. And I should make some videos discussing all that. I want to thank my contributors who have kept me going. I want to thank all the people who believe in me and know that I don't just pull things out of my ear, that what I'm saying is 100% true. And it's always vindicated by the facts, and it's always been vindicated by future events. And all of my predictions have come true and are now historic and are unfolding as I reveal all these things. And I know what's coming next with Trump once he gets inaugurated. And we're going to be talking about that in the future. So please like, share, and subscribe. And if you would be so kind, please join my contributors. You can find links where you can contribute at cjbbooks.com. And you can find all my books there where I delve into these subjects much more deeply than I am able to in these presentations. But they work together very, very well. This is very esoteric and advanced stuff, and much of it is unique insights that I'm bringing forth for the first time. So it's good to watch my videos in addition to reading my books, and my books provide even a great deal more substantiation and citations and factual references that prove that what I'm saying is true. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see all you good people next time. Goodbye for now.